What's up, Reitanna? It's Reitanna Seishin here. Before I start with this video, in a previous video, my Sims video, you will probably, if you watched it, you'll recall me voicing my concern about heavy heartbeat, possibly being heart palpitations. Michael just informed me, because he's in control of my medication, he gives it to me, because otherwise I'll forget to take it. He has just informed me that I have been out of my anxiety medication, my propranolol, so that would explain it, which is sort of easing my worries a little bit, but, you know, still. That would explain why it's a recent development, because my heartbeat earlier today, I took it once, and it was, well, technically I took it 3 times, but one was after about, 20 minutes, so I took it once. It was, resting heart rate was 108 beats per minute. 20 minutes later, it was at 103. While I was recording my Sims video, it was down to 86. So it's possible that the talking may have reduced my stress. That makes sense. Okay, let's get started. So first I'm going to read the description that I wrote for this. I was afraid to share this idea because I was afraid someone would steal it, but upon doing further research on copyright laws, I found out that an idea can't be copyrighted, but its expression can. An expression of an idea is fixating it into a permanent state. Since I have this saved to my computer and am uploading it here, it is protected by copyright. That makes me feel better because I'm really excited about this idea, even though it may never happen. I have a lot of dreams, and I've had these for a long-ass time, and I still have them, where I am a superhero with powers that don't work all of the time. One day, right before Michael woke me up, the words "Extraordinary Girl" were spoken in dream, and I thought, what a generic name for a superhero. But the more I tried to think of something better, the more it stuck. Same with Poppy's last name. The first thing that popped into my head was Roseflower, and I was like, I'm not gonna name her Poppy Roseflower. That's stupid. But again, the more I tried to think of a better name, the more it stuck. Well, the premise of this idea was already pretty unorthodox, so I went with it. I have never created a superhero, unless you count Powerpuff Girls stuff. I am not into superhero things. I don't like DC or Marvel. I don't enjoy cartoon episodes with superheroes in them, like the Fairly Odd Parents with the Crimson Chin. The only one I liked was the one with the Crimson Chin action figure that said really funny things. And the only superhero movies I've ever enjoyed are The Incredibles and its sequel. I forgot to add Kick-Ass, though. Even though it kind of was a parody of superhero movies, but I did like Kick-Ass. But these types of dreams occurred so often, and they were so entertaining, I had to put it into something. What is something that the Crimson Chin action figure actually says? Mike remembers them. I bet you could look them up. I'm not going to do that right now. By the way, if my voice seems like it's because I just got done recording something that was like an hour long, so I sound kind of like a prepubescent boy. So, Extraordinary Girl would be a comic series with very cartoonish illustrations, and I even have in my head what it would look like. The target age group would be 16 and up, so that it can be both childish and comprehensible, with mild adult humor. This idea is so vivid in my head, it'd be the kind of thing I'd want to freaking publish. But you know my track record. I haven't even released a page of Playing with Fire for a few years, and Shock only has 2 pages. That was going to be a nice big project, but God, I don't know what I'm doing with Shock. Plus, even though I'm good at drawing, I honest to God would want someone to partner up with me and be my main illustrator. I'd most likely do most of the writing, since over the years I've realized I'm a much better writer than an artist, and my writing skills improve much more quickly than any of my other artistic skills. With this illustrator as my partner, we'd try to get published, and if it was successful, we'd share the revenue 50-50 unless I felt that their part of the work was much more tedious than mine. Having many years of drawing experience, I can certainly understand how difficult and time-consuming it can be, especially when doing a comic. My illustrator would have to be a much more talented artist than me for this to work. So this is the first dream I've had in many years, since I've long not dreamed like Sleepy Dream, like, I have a dream. Since I've longed believed that dreams never come true. This comic series may never happen, but the idea being on the internet may open up opportunities for me in the future. No guarantees. This kind of thing isn't as easy as it is in the movies or in TV. It sucks that I'm so stoked about it. I really think this could be successful. I even just explained it to Michael, who does like superhero comics and stuff, and he seemed impressed. My greatest ideas come to me when I'm asleep. So I don't know. If you're out there, unknown business partner, let's have a talk. It will never happen. Michael and I actually were discussing this, and I will get to that after I'm done sharing it. So, a quote that Extraordinary Girl will say, most likely at the beginning of issue 1, would be, "My dad once told me that, theoretically, I could be the most powerful superhero in existence, more powerful than any fictional superhero ever imagined, if all of my frickin' powers would work 100% of the frickin' time." Poppy Roseflower was born with superpowers. The thing is, she's the only human in recorded history to have powers at all. Hang on a moment. Okie dokie dokie. Hiding it as a child was nearly impossible because she couldn't control them, so her powers would go off at random times. Poppy became a media sensation, and was both loved and hated, though she was just trying to live her life. Until a friend suggested that she should fight crime! So she started pretending to be a superhero on the playground, trying to protect her classmates from bullies, but since she could not control these powers, she ended up hurting a kid. Her father, Chadwick Roseflower, is a scientific genius, so he decided to take it upon himself to try and help her learn to control her powers. After all, this was his fault. Being a scientist, Chadwick dealt with a lot of chemicals and machinery, and though he was very cautious and careful, he didn't bother to protect a certain part of his body from radiation, as he was sterile. Or so he and his wife, Annette Roseflower, thought. They had been told they'd never have a baby, but one night, some of his radioactive boys got through, and the superpowered baby Poppy was conceived. Chadwick designed a small, ball-shaped floating robot for Poppy, named him Motor, and explained to her that he was not just a friend, but a device that would observe, calculate, and measure her powers so that both Motor and her father can study them. This way, they can each help Poppy learn to control what she's capable of. When she got older, her control was still not ideal, so he built her the Extra Gun, playing off of her superhero name. Which was a gun she could use against foes in the event that none of her powers were cooperating. An extra power, if you will. Oh, I'm so clever. Poppy came up with the name Extraordinary Girl, spelled Xtraordinary. So, the word extraordinary is actually extra and ordinary put together, but it doesn't mean what it seems to sound like it means, because saying something is extra ordinary would mean it's super ordinary, like it's so ordinary I can't even. But extraordinary actually means way more than ordinary, special, just out there, just wow, you are amazing. So Poppy came up with the name Extraordinary Girl when Chadwick told her that she was an extraordinary girl at a young age. She didn't know what the word meant, so he explained it, and thus that became her name. So basically, as a child, children are simple. So she's like, Extraordinary Girl, that sounds great! And she wouldn't have changed it as she got older and realized how plain it was because of the fact that it meant something, it was sentimental to her. Her costume is pink with green trim, and there's a large X on the front that also serves as the sleeves and neck hole. She also wears a ribbon around her neck. I changed this to a tiny cape because of the way I drew it. So it's a small, tiny little cape. The suit was later redesigned to have extra folds of fabric on the back so that Poppy could stretch them out under her arms and glide when her flying abilities failed. They decided to do this when Poppy was kicked off of a building by a villain and none of her powers were working, but discovered a new one that saved her life. She turned into goo. The idea came, not the idea for turning into goo, the idea for the gliding came from sugar gliders, because they're just so cute, and they're little gliders, sugar gliders, and they have the cutest name, and I love sugar gliders. I wish I could have one. And my rat's over there like, I'm right here. Presently, Poppy is 19 years old, still lives with her parents, and tries her hardest to fight crime in the city, Totropolis. I don't remember where I got the idea for the name Tetropolis. I think I wrote these names as they came to my head, so they popped up in my head. Like, Annette is not actually a real name, I don't think. And that's what I named her mother. So Tetropolis, I think, was supposed to be like, a play on of a metropolis, which is a city. And I was thinking, totally metropolis, dude. So Tetropolis. She makes a lot of mistakes, but never gives up. When her story hit the media, it encouraged superpowered villains to come to Tetropolis to try and fight her. They had previously hid their powers, afraid of ridicule, but after seeing her, they realized they could use their powers against the world that was prepared to shun them. So Poppy is the first in recorded history to have powers. Obviously, everybody else have been silenced. Poppy meets her biggest fan, a girl named Kuko Kumura. Komuro. Sorry. So it's supposed to hint that she's Japanese, but this isn't a real Japanese name. So it's, yeah. So Kuko, I don't think Kuko is a real name. Komuro. And they become very good friends, eventually falling in love. However, Kuko ends up getting kidnapped a lot by enemies to try and lure Poppy into a trap, so Poppy explains that they should not be together for Kuko's safety. This breaks both of their hearts, but their love never dies, so the friendship becomes more of an on-again, off-again relationship. Poppy had never known she liked girls because her constant training made her too busy for the dating life. Poppy was born with many powers, but during her life she's triggered or gained new ones. Some of her powers appeared after eating something, like accidentally swallowing bubblegum or eating cotton candy. There are powers she was born with that she can control completely, such as super strength and speed running. She has also given most of her powers funny names, as she's a silly girl who never truly grows out of her childish nature. Long ago, Chadwick realized that Poppy's powers were stronger and more likely to work when she concentrates hard enough. Excuse me. So he told her to name them and shout them out loud. That way her brain was forced to completely concentrate on the one power. With some of them, she can simply whisper them. Saying fly never works with her flying ability. I did this because in my dreams I always say the name, and I think that stems from cartoons like Dragon Ball Z, where they say the name so you don't forget what the power is called, when in reality you're thinking, and J.K. Rowling had this idea also, obviously, in the 6th book of Harry Potter, because if you shout the name of what you're going to use and they know what that does, they can defend against it. So that's where wordless spells, came, nonverbal spells came into the Harry Potter universe, and that's always the joke that everybody has in cartoons like Dragon Ball Z. Like, if they know what the Kamehameha wave is, don't say Kamehameha, then they'll know exactly what you're doing. And the fact that takes so long. I guess if you say solar beam really fast, that's gonna work, and it's gonna be like, my ass, but, with slower moves, it's like, oh man, he's doing it, he's doing the freaking Kamehameha wave. Or like Team 4-Star did with Dragon Ball Z Abridged. He's using the Spirit Bomb! The Spirit what? It's the only thing that can defeat Frieza! When Goku's supposed to be doing it without anybody noticing. Anyway, I digress. Here's a list of her current powers. I'm not sure if there's going to be any later in the series if this happens, but these are the ones that we're starting out with. And note that all of these powers, except for Booger Body, happened in my dreams. So this all came out of my dreams, except for Booger Body. I'll get there. Okay, Tornado Ball. A swirling sphere that is made up of the same elements that makes a tornado. It's not as strong as an actual tornado, but it's still one of her strongest powers. Aquafire Chaos. This one's my favorite. This is Poppy's most powerful attack, aside from Last Chance. It's not liquid fire, and it's not boiling water, but some sort of impossible hybrid of water and fire that swirls around the opponent in a spiral and closes in on them. It doesn't work if Poppy does not have enough energy. Now, sometimes when I can activate Aquafire Chaos in my dreams, sometimes it's a spiral, but I can't necessarily see exactly what it's made of. And so that's my difficult part, where I'm like, I'm not sure how this would be illustrated to show that it is a hybrid between fire and water. I would have to play around with that. So next, Bubblegum Blast. Obtained after swallowing some bubblegum, Poppy can produce sticky pink bubbles of various sizes from her hands and shoot them at opponents. The pop on impact not only injures foes, but also covers them in sticky goo that prevents them from going anywhere. Booger Body. I came up with this one while I was daydreaming when I came up with all of this stuff, and I had actually drawn her, and I was like, oh my god, this is a thing. Wah! And I was like, but there's gotta be something, cause she has a power called No Clip that rarely works, but she's gotta have something kind of close to it. And I was thinking of Osmosis, but then I was like, that's too close to No Clip. So I came up with Booger Body. After falling 20 stories from a building, Poppy found that her flying ability wasn't working at that moment, and then that none of her powers were working. She desperately cries out for something, anything to happen, then accepts her impending death until she hits the pavement as a gooey splat, completely uninjured. She exclaims, "Ew, I became goop? What the crap?" With difficulty, she manages to pop back up into her solid form. When she's goop, she's unable to get hurt by physical attacks. So, like, if you, like, step on her, kick her, try to punch her, it doesn't hurt. But, like, if you freeze her or something, or you shoot fire at her or something, it's like, ah! Ice Cascade. This is another one of my favorites. It's one of the first ones that I ended up using. Poppy is able to summon ice from the moisture in the air, and one of her most powerful attacks causes a cylinder of heavy, dense ice shards to fall onto her opponent from above. No Clip. This is a power that rarely works for Poppy, because it rarely works for me when I'm dreaming. Using this ability enables her to pass through solid objects. It's called No Clip because basically when you no clip in a game, it means you can go through the walls and stuff. You can go through stuff. Like in God mode in Containment Breach is where you can't die. But there is a no clip cheat that you can trigger. Cotton Candy Crush. After eating her first bit of cotton candy, Poppy found herself able to produce spherical pillows of the fluffy sweet from her hands, about the size of a slightly larger softball. However, this power does nothing but gently bounces off her opponent, or anyone else. I personally discovered this when using this power. This power works quite often, which is frustrating, but she uses it as not just a snack, but to playfully attack her friends. I'm seriously, guys. When I discovered that I had this power in my dream world, it did nothing. It made like a sound when it hit people in the face. I was like, are you kidding? And it works all the time! Almost all the time. Shield. Actually, this one works a lot, and it's been working a lot more since I've come up with the Extraordinary Girl concept. Poppy can say shield at any vocal volume to encase herself in an invisible ball that repels attacks. Sometimes she can add words like super, ultra, and impenetrable to try and make it stronger. This actually works most of the time. I have recently discovered that if I say shield and then someone else, I can shield them. So I've been able to say shield entire party, which means everybody that I'm fighting with would be protected. I could say shield, funny story. Stone Cold Steve Austin came in to Rey Mysterio's theme song and was definitely in very bad shape. Like, I know he's retired now, but like he was in such bad shape that he couldn't even work out. And so when he was trying to fight crime with us, I didn't want to let him know that he couldn't really do much. So I said shield Steve Austin, and I put a shield around him so that the attacks wouldn't hurt him. And then Duke Nukem came in from the ceiling, and we all had to hide because he was just shooting first and asking no questions. And then he said my name wouldn't work because the number of spaces you can add your name in is only 8 characters long, which would make his name not work because with the space it's 10 characters. And then Deadpool in a baseball uniform told me that when I wake up, I could do anything I set my mind to. I love it when I don't have nightmares. Because they're like that. Okay. And lately they have been stronger and stronger shields, so it's really cool. Invisible. Upon saying invisible at any vocal volume, Poppy can become 100% invisible, clothes and all. However, this one doesn't work as often, and she only realizes she's not invisible when someone sees her. Motor usually is able to let her know when it doesn't work. I can't remember the last time I tried to use this one. I do remember a dream, because I don't remember the last time I tried to use it, but I do remember a last time I tried to use it, if that makes sense. I said invisible, and then I went out to, I guess, my friends or something. I was like, am I invisible? And they're like, no. I'm like, damn it. So I went back and I said invisible. And then I came back out, and I'm like, am I invisible? And they're like, no. And I'm like, god damn it. So I went back, and I was like, invisible. And I came out, and I was like, am I invisible? And they're like, holy shit, oh my god, you're totally invisible. I was like, yeah. So, next is Nightlight. This is actually one that I did not come up with in Dream. I based it off of the fact that in a lot of cartoons, if it's completely black, you still see their eyes, which is creepy. So I came up with this idea that another ability that works almost every time, upon saying Nightlight at any vocal volume, Poppy's eyes will light up like flashlights, enabling her and anyone else to see in the dark. I tried this for the first time in my dream. It didn't work. But I'm giving her this one, because she's got enough to deal with as it is. Eye beams. I don't think she actually says it. I think this always works non-vocally. That it just, because I haven't been able to come up with a name. I've said eye beams before, but I don't know if I want to do that with her. This can work non-vocally, but vocal or not, the percentage rate of the power working is very low. So think of, like, the Powerpuff Girls, how they could shoot red beams from their eyes. It's like that. It was the first power she ever used. It happened right after she was born, and she was crying as the doctor held her. Red beams suddenly shot from her eyes and burned his toupee. Annette fainted when this happened, and Chadwick couldn't speak for a few hours. Light paint. I wasn't going to add this one until I had a dream about it. Light painting is when you keep a camera's aperture open for an extended amount of time and use a light source to make shapes in the air. Basically, if the camera's aperture is open longer, the more light exposure it gets. So if you were to do it in the daytime, you would get a completely white picture. I'm giving you a photography lesson. So if you do it at night, say if you point the camera at the sky and you keep the aperture open for a few hours, and then you look at the picture, you will see that the stars look like they're spinning. You can look up pictures of that. I've also done some light painting where if you take like a laser light and you keep the aperture of the camera open, you can just randomly wave the light around, and when you look at the picture, there are shapes. And I will leave some of those examples in the description if I can remember by the end of this video. If I haven't left those links in the description, let me know. Okay, so light paint. This power has a 50% chance of working. It's not an attack. It simply lights up the tip of Poppy's index finger, and she can write/draw in midair, the markings glowing. They stay put for a few hours. I believe my dream self got this idea from Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, because Hermione uses, is it Flagrati? It might not be Flagrati. No, I don't think it is. She uses a spell that puts a fiery X in front of the doors of the in the Department of Mysteries that stays there for a while. So, in fact, if I can remember, in my dream I was using a wand, but then it turned into my finger. So that's why I gave it to Poppy. Okay, flamethrower. obviously this is a name of a Pokemon move, but it's what I use in my dream. This is one, like I say right here, Poppy is almost always successful at this one. She can throw jets of fire from both of her hands. She can also snap her fingers and create a candle flame on the tip of her index finger by thinking of fire at the same time. She obtained this power when a villain set her on fire and she discovered she was flame retardant. Tidal wave. It doesn't work very often, but Poppy can summon a giant wave of water that's very destructive. It's actually been working for me lately. Freeze. After spoken at any vocal volume, Poppy can not only turn liquids into ice, but encase an enemy in ice to temporarily keep them from moving. However, this power still rarely works. Pause. One of the rarest powers to work, though it was working pretty nicely last night. Poppy can stop time until she says, unpause. When it works, sometimes it will unpause without her saying so. Now, I don't think unpause is an actual word, so it will, not pause. It will stop being paused. It has a 5% chance of working the way she wants it to. That is 5% of the 10% chance of the power working at all. You mathematicians, you know those are low chances. So last night I was able to use it. It took a couple of times for me to actually get it to pause. But the problem I had was somebody else said unpause, and it freaking unpaused. I'm like, no, that's not how this is supposed to work! Redo. Another extremely rare power that allows Poppy to rewind time like a video so that she can redo an event. When successful, the chance of it working again lowers each time she tries. This has actually been working really well recently. Unfortunately, the last time I tried to use it was last night, and when I redid the part that I wanted to redo, it didn't undo the damage that was done. It just took me back as if the damage had just regardless already happened. But I got the person who did the damage to undo it, because they could do that. Okay, Water Blade. Works most of the time. Poppy can create water from the air and control it. But it works as a sharp blade. Like Oshawott Razor Shell. In the anime, though, when I think it's Razor Shell, when it extends the Razor Shell, the water comes off of the shell. I don't remember. But basically, it's a sharp blade made of water. However, if she thinks about water, it won't be sharp. So basically, my dream self was influenced by Avatar: The Last Airbender. So in some of them, I am a bender, which would explain flamethrowers being firebending and being able to bend water, which I've been getting better at. And funnily enough, I think night before last, I actually met Katara, and she was like, "You're a waterbender?" I'm like, "Close. I'm not from your universe. It's a power." See, there's these things that they work in different ways in different universes, and it was really weird. But I asked her to give me different quote-unquote waterbending techniques, but I never got a chance to do it because I woke up. Sparkle. It works basically like solar flare. A 50% chance of working, this power shoots bright sparkles from Poppy's hands into the face of a foe, temporarily blinding them. And for those of you who aren't fans of Dragon Ball Z, the way solar flare works is it just creates a huge blinding light, like from the sun, like solar flare. Get it? And so a solar flare is also something that a star can do when it's nearing the end of stars have certain cycles where the activity on the surface of the sun gets more violent. And our sun is currently in that cycle, is getting toward the end of that cycle. I believe the technical term for a solar flare, correct me if I'm wrong, is mass coronal ejection. Correct me if I'm wrong, if mass coronal ejection is the same as a solar flare. But basically, if it happens, like, it's not just a pretty blinding light that, ow, oh my god, we're fucked. Okay, last chance. This power has a 0.1% chance of succeeding, and it only works when Poppy has been beaten to near death. The idea of this one actually was not done in Dream. It might have been under the guise of Devil May Cry's Devil Trigger. In Devil May Cry, when your health is at its lowest, like if you have 1 hit point left and you Devil Trigger, you go into this super Devil Trigger that's just a freaking badass, and it just fucking just burr. So that's where I got this idea. I think I've used Devil Trigger in my dreams before, but I didn't want to rip off Devil Trigger. So her entire body glows and then forces an incredible explosion from her entire being, which is so powerful it obliterates anything it comes in contact with. Once the explosion passes, Poppy will have gained just enough energy to keep her alive long enough to make a recovery, but she will faint and become comatose until she regains much more of her energy. In Devil May Cry, this little burst of energy, when you Devil Trigger at near death, will actually boost up your health, because when you're in Devil Trigger, usually, if you don't count Devil May Cry 2, because Devil May Cry 2 has different parts of the Devil Trigger, different hearts, I should say. But Devil Trigger will cause you to gradually heal the longer you're in it. In Devil May Cry 2, you have the healing heart, which can be replaced with different kinds of hearts, which have different abilities. The healing heart causes you to heal. I don't remember if the other hearts will allow you to heal slower. The extra gun. This is an actual gun that I actually use in my actual dream universe, and I've used it many times, and I know what it looks like, and it's just crazy. A mechanical and chemical weapon that only works for Poppy, responding to her power signature. Her father built it for her when she was 16 and still having difficulty controlling when her powers work. Its ammo are small, differently colored tablets, and each color of tablet works a different way. Red are simply plasma bullets. Pink are plasma blasts that work when the trigger is held. The longer it's held, the more powerful the blast. Sometimes it actually bounces off surfaces, like the gun in Devil May Cry 1. Oh god. What is it called? I will be right back. I feel so dumb. Of course I knew this. It's in the Nightmare betas. There's an enemy called Nightmare. And basically this gun, I think you get this gun after you defeat Nightmare. And it's called Nightmare Beta, and it's a demonic laser gun, a demonic firearm which fires reflectable lasers powered by Dante's Devil Trigger. So when Dante's in Devil Trigger, he can power up the laser. The longer you hold down the button, the more strong the blast, and the more it bounces off of walls. In my dream, it bounces off things, but I haven't decided whether or not I want to make that an actual, feature, because sometimes it doesn't bounce off things. Okay, so continuing on. Green heals an ally. Poppy can eat them to heal herself, but they're hard to make, so she has very few of them, only for emergencies. Purple are bullets that stun an opponent for a short period of time. Yellow cause a quick burst of blinding light, and black completely obliterate the target forever. Much harder to make than the green, so it's used for extreme emergencies, and sometimes she doesn't even have one. So the first time the extra gun came up in my dreams, obviously was not called the extra gun. It did not have a name, or if it did, I don't remember. It was, we were at war with some alien race or something, and I had all these tablets, and they all did exactly what I just listed that they do, and it was just really crazy. I don't know, it was, God, I wish you could, videotape your freaking dreams. Next, Flying. Non-vocal, but sometimes it doesn't work, so Poppy has to use the flaps on her suit to glide. Sometimes she will involuntarily start to float like a balloon, and this made her father give her a mini grappling hook in her right glove so she doesn't end up in the atmosphere. I do not have this grappling hook in my dream, so usually I have to hang on to things, and if I'm talking to somebody, I'll be like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, this happens to me sometimes. And meanwhile, my body is floating, trying to float away, and this person I'm talking to is just like, what? Speed running. Non-vocal, and Poppy can control it 100% of the time since birth. Super strength. Non-vocal, started working 100% of the time at age 5. Healing. And this comes, again, from the idea of Dante's Devil Trigger. Devil Trigger in general, because I know that Dante's not the only one who does Devil Trigger. As long as Poppy exists, she is constantly healing, though very slowly. I made it much, much slower than the healing you get through Devil Trigger. She thinks of it like a life bar in a video game. It can take months for her health to go from 1 to 100%. It takes about a day for it to go from 99 to 100%. This makes injuries heal a bit more quickly than normal humans, as well as causes illnesses to pass sooner. Motor. Motor is an extremely powerful AI robot, sphere-shaped, the size of a grapefruit, and he hovers. He has an antenna on the top, which enables him to act like a smartphone. He's also very cute. Motor has become Poppy's lifelong best friend, and she cares very deeply for him, having him with her everywhere she goes. She even took him to school. His main purpose is to keep track of Poppy's powers, to fully understand them, and help teach her how to control them. And, of course, report back to her father. But he also works as a container for the extra gun's ammo. Motor can also feel near-human emotions, and the maximum height he can hover from a gravitational surface is 50 feet. Aside from the extra gun's ammo, Motor can hold other small items, is waterproof on the outside, not the inside, so he can't hold food or liquid unless it's tightly sealed in a package, and heat resistant. Unfortunately, he cannot attack, but can use a magnetic force to repel attacks unless he gets too damaged. Because of this, Poppy will do everything she can to protect him during a fight, which will come in handy if she uses shield on Motor. So if she says shield Motor, she'll be able to shield him. I can't really remember if I can use shield and my powers at the same time. I will have to start trying to pay more attention to that. Main villains. So these are repeating villains that show up multiple times. Octusa, a young woman with 8 octopus arms protruding from her head that she can fully control, and they can stretch decently far. The idea, obviously, is play off from Medusa, who is a... What are they called? You guys, with the Greek stuff, I don't know if it's Greek or Roman. Is Medusa Greek or Roman? I don't remember. They have a name because there's 3 of them. I think they're called Gorons. I think it starts with a G. I need some nerd in that area to be nerdy for me and tell me what they're called. But basically Medusa and the other 2, I guess, but Medusa's the one that we associate it with. I think, let's see, in Castlevania she was a floating head with snakes for hair. In I think in mythology she is actually a woman with snakes for hair, and if you were to look her in the eyes, you get turned to stone. Please correct me if I'm wrong. So Octusa is playing off of Medusa. Instead of having snakes for hair, she has 8 octopus arms for hair. I have 2 concept art sketched out, and the second one, Mike warned me that she looked like an octoling. Is that what they're called? I've never played Splatoon, and I've only seen the Inklings. I've never seen the octolings. They're not octolings, right? They're octolings. And he said they looked really similar. And so even though I've never seen what the octolings look like, I want to try and I want to, make sure that that's not something that looks like I copied. So there are certain features that I'm going to give her to make her look less like a Splatoon-ish character, because I do know what the Inklings look like, and I know I can see the resemblance between mine. I might have subconsciously designed her with that in mind. Sometimes it happens, and I'm not the only one it happens to. It happens to people all the time. They're like, oh yeah, now that you think about it, it does resemble that, and it's possible I did base it off that. So I'm going to change some of her appearance, but she is a young woman with 8 octopus... I already read that. Wow. Repeat. A genderless creature that can take on the appearance of anyone or anything, like a doppelganger. It has its own powers. It can't copy abilities from anyone or anything else, like a Ditto from Pokemon. It can just copy the appearance. When it's not in the form of another, its humanoid body is completely black, no clothes, no hair, and the only facial features are its white eyes. So, basically, if you think of the Heartless from Kingdom Hearts, except if they were in the shape of a featureless mannequin. So like a shadow mannequin thingy with white eyes. I don't know. Okay. Thought crime. Before I go on with thought crime, I want to tell you what you probably already realized with going with the flow of poppy rose flower. For those of you who do not know, poppy is a flower and rose is a flower and then flower. Going with basically the stupid name theme here. I believe Chadwick is a real name, but it sounds really oofy, so I used that for her father, and then I used Inette instead of Annette for Poppy's mother. You will see that I'm going with a theme here with weird names. So thought crime. His real name is Farns Guntworth. A human man with unimaginable intelligence, and was friends with Chadwick in college. When working on a partner project together, Chadwick was offered a very exclusive and high-paying job, as he seemed to be more capable than Farns, and there was only one opening. Farns was enraged, cutting ties with Chadwick and festering in spite for many years. Once he saw his daughter in the media, Farns was able to find out where the family lived, and he found his opportunity to seek revenge, having been planning it for a very long time. He is also a tech genius like Chadwick, so his quote-unquote powers are mechanical. The Toxic Trio. A group of identical triplet brothers. I kind of got the idea from my own Jisatsu brothers, but I made them triplets instead, and obviously not in romantic relationships with each other if I want to keep this in my age group. A group of identical triplet brothers that acquired powers from a secret chemical experiment gone wrong. They gained powers that center around poison. Their names are Tibbet, Tickery, and Teto Tinkerton. Because tease. Some powers they each have are identical, but they also have individual abilities. Soft Spot. And I just drew her concept art that I really like. She's super cute. Her real name is Betty Soft. A little girl that was born with powers like Poppy, but learned to control them almost immediately. She was forced to hide them from everyone and became enraged once Poppy gained fame. She is the one who pushed Poppy off of the roof of that 20-story building. Most of her powers are different than Poppy's, but she still has to shout their names out loud, so it's going to be really fun coming up with her powers. She calls herself Soft Spot, not just because of her surname being soft, but because she's incredibly cute and innocent looking, so she can manipulate people into pardoning her wrongdoings. Unipolar, real name Hus Gocha. Did I make it Hus or Hus? I think it's Hus Gocha. Yeah. Hus Gocha. Another human born with powers, forced to hide, and spiteful toward Poppy's fame. Hus suffers from major depression, because sometimes major depression is called clinical depression or unipolar unipolar disorder, like bipolar being, yeah, you get it, okay. But doesn't take medication or see a therapist. He's very emotional, and these emotions not only enable him to use his powers without saying their names, but makes them unstable, so he can't control just how strong they are. If he's calm, he can fully control his powers. After quite a few encounters, Unipolar surrenders to his final defeat, admits to have fallen for Poppy, though she's not interested because she's a lesbian, and he becomes an ally. Unfortunately, due to his depression, he is unable to help Poppy frequently, especially since he decided to seek treatment. Kelsey. a very cringy name here, but you'll see why. Her real name is Kelsey Vuger. Another human-born super, Kelsey actually became inspired when Poppy's fame hit. Being a few years older, she decided to come out and admit her powers to get fame. She didn't care about fighting crime. But everyone thought she was faking, because of Poppy's popularity. This made her angry, and she decided to prove herself by attacking her town, Garnsville. It's not noted here, but Kelsey is very unstable. So she possibly has some mental issues of her own, especially with what happens. So attacking her town, Garnsville, taking many casualties and causing a few deaths. She hadn't meant to do that. She had just lost control. But this shock caused her to lose her sanity, and she became one of the most malicious and dangerous villains to rise up during Poppy's life. She even starts calling herself Kelsey instead of Kelsey, and is so strong Poppy has failed each time to bring her down. So, somebody who is insane. Like, insane and mentally ill are not the same thing. She actually went insane because she couldn't handle the trauma of what she did. And somebody who has very erratic thoughts that go every which way, and nothing even matters, but everything matters, nothing's real, these are real, that's not real, but that's real, but it's not supposed to be real, etc. Just, it's all random and chaotic, so she would come up with a name as cringy as Kelsey. That is my excuse. When the reign of Kelsey started, it got so bad, Poppy was desperately requested to come and fight her. Kelsey's number one weakness is her own sanity, because she will have confusing periods of time where she is appalled by her own actions, basically when she has periods of saneness. And she ends up running away until she strikes again. She often will ask Poppy to help her be good, but her insanity takes over and forces her to be evil. Kelsey is Poppy's number one archenemy, but her empathy keeps her from destroying her, believing that there might be a chance for her. Minor enemies. So enemies that just happen once. Morp Master. His name is Joshua Denton. So not Joshua, it's spelled Joshua Denton. The idea for this, believe it or not, in high school, we had a dance called Morp, which was basically the backwards version of prom. It's, you would wear something that you would never be caught dead in at prom. So basically, and I thought this was very offensive because I love this fashion, rave fashion. So brightly colored tutus, striped socks, fishnets, all the, crazy head bobbers, and other really just stuff that I love so much. The opposite of prom. We called it Morp. I only went to one high school dance, and it sucked. So I never went to another high school dance again, and instead of going to prom, I hosted a rave. One that people did not do drugs at because I am straight edge. And the second rave that somebody else hosted did have drugs in it, and that was not very fun at all. Okay, a magician nerd in his senior year of high school. When prom came around, he was rejected by every girl he asked because he was basically the most unpopular kid in school, and his magic tricks freaked everyone out because they were too real looking. Well, that's because they were real. He decided to get his revenge by crashing his high school prom, using his magic to turn it into sort of like an opposite prom. Morp, which I just told you about. It would be like a chaotic circus harassing everyone in the room. The incident made headlines, but it was after the Morp Master's second strike that made Poppy realize his revenge was not satisfied. So prom only happens once a year, so obviously this would have to be either at another school during prom season or next year's prom. I believe I'm going to make it happen at different high schools during prom season. So it was after the Morp Master's second strike that made Poppy realize his revenge was not satisfied, so she made an appearance at the next prom. He showed up and they fought, and in the end, Poppy told him that high school social life didn't matter, that there was always someone out there. High school relationships, they never last. That's when an unpopular girl from that school came forward and told Morp Master that she was impressed, and that if he stopped attacking people, she'd like to get to know him a little better. Thus, Morp Master renamed himself the Magic Master and decided he would try to pursue a career in show business no matter how many people thought he was a freak. The Licky, a giant tongue monster that ends up harassing the city, covering in saliva. Now, I haven't settled on this name yet, so it's either man-girl or fee-man. A humanoid creature without genitals, one half of its body looking like a woman, and the other half looking like a man. It has really weird powers. Poppy's appendix. Poppy has to get her appendix removed, but it gains sentient and tries to get revenge on her for apparently not being important enough. Wawa Land. A strange lightning storm causes an amusement park to become alive, terrorizing guests and causing people to stay away from it despite how beloved it was. An electric fence is built around it, and Poppy's called to take care of it. Mirror Mirror. A girl who can use reflective surfaces as portals. Funnily enough, this also came from a dream. There was this girl who kept going into mirrors, and I was like, I tried to go into them myself, and I couldn't. Sometimes I can go into mirrors. They usually lead me to different universes. But with this one, she kept coming out of mirrors, and then there was a point where she was like on a reflective surface of a car hood, and she came out of that, so I'm like, okay. The Duckling. A normal baby duck that is apparently so unlucky it unknowingly causes chaos wherever it goes. It, however, remains completely safe. Poppy is called to try and capture it. Baby George Hefton. This also came from a dream. A woman's baby has a troublesome power. When he gets extremely upset, the pitch of his voice becomes much lower and is amplified to deafening levels. Poppy and her father try to come up with a solution to fix it. In the dream, he would actually turn purple. But I don't know if I want to make that a feature or not. Let me know in the comments if George Hefton, the little baby with a powerful voice, should also turn purple when upset. Thank you. That is what I have for that. I drew Poppy in the style. As you can see on my screen, I have my basic cover artwork concept. So I drew a lot of inspiration from many places to create this style. For some reason, black lines didn't sit well with me, so I took the My Little Pony Friendship is Magic route and used color lines that are nice and thick. Most of the style has a rounded, almost toyish look, extremely cartoony and wacky. Ends of most lines are rounded, except for things that need to be a point, like the ends of her hair. Poppy is made out of various circles, as will be any other adult female. Adults are indeed short and stubby like this, which will make children very small. I'm thinking tiny bodies, big heads, and huge, shiny eyes. Adult males will, of course, have less curves than females, the torso being much straighter with no defined hips. Poppy is specifically designed to be on the chubby side because she eats too much sugar. These colors are my ideal colors for her. What was I just going to say about you, Poppy? Crap. I don't remember. Well, if I remember, then okay. When the mouth is open, you can see the top row of teeth, except for in certain comedic instances, and the tongue, which is heart-shaped. Noses are usually very round, varying in size, but playing with character design can offer a variety of shapes. For instance, my first concept drawing for unipolar, he has a pointy nose, and no, I'm correct. My second concept art for unipolar has a pointy nose. My first concept art for Octusa, first and second, have pointy nose, but I'm going to change it to a round, bulbous nose. Anyway, same with the eyes. I actually sketched some eye styles out this morning with different expressions for each. If I upload them, it'll be much later. I don't know. No shading except for specific shiny things like hair, plastic, and metal, though dramatic scenes can call for shadows. I am not happy with the hands. I like the idea of the arms starting thin at the shoulders and working into a wider hand, but I don't know. It's the open hand I'm not too fond of. Girls have one thick eyelash on each eye unless the character is ridiculously beautiful. Feminine males can have one eyelash for each eye, but they will be thinner and less prominent. Eyebrows are black no matter what color the hair the character has, and they quote-unquote float. This means there can be instances where the eyebrows look completely detached from the head, and they are always in front of the character's head as long as the eyes are seen. So if a character's hair has straight bangs that cover the top half of the eyes, the eyebrows are still seen. If a character is covering one eye with their hair, that eyebrow will not be seen. Ears are round and stupid looking, the inside just being a swirl shaped like a 6. Characters can have many different variations on Characters can have many different variations on size and shape. That makes sense. But poppies are considered quote-unquote normal, except for the fact that she's chubby. Also, the face has a very prominent cheek, but I haven't decided what a head will look like from the front angle, or the profile. Playing with the proportions of characters is encouraged. And lastly, no neck. If the character is wearing a choker or scarf, it'll be drawn over the top of the chest right under the chin, which is why I changed her neck ribbon to a cape, because I forgot to draw the front of the ribbon. Let's see. What do I have in... So for the cover art, it shows that buildings are very quirky and unorganized from afar. In scenes, they will most likely look brighter and possibly more colorful. Where's Motor? I know he's still on here. You can't see it, but I'm having difficulties. Okay, so what did I write under Motor? Oh, okay, so for what I drew of Motor, it is exactly what he looks like. So his mouth is a different gray so that it stands out against the seam it's connected to. So that's Extraordinary Girl. And I am officially out of vocal cords. I am out of voice. I have been talking for many hours now, since this is the 3rd video I've recorded my voice for. Some of that was fake, some of that was not fake. Alright, so, Michael and I actually were discussing, this yesterday, and he said, specifically because YouTube is failing to be, a good career opportunity for anybody now. It used to be, and I still remember when I got paid a pretty decent amount for the rate I uploaded at. But now it's flopping as a career choice, and I'm not making enough money off of it. Even if I were to upload every single day, I probably wouldn't be making an ideal enough amount. English. Reitanna, you can do it. So our idea was for me to start doing some research on how much it could possibly cost to get a comic like this made, and like say 100 copies printed to be sold, and including that, how much an artist, an illustrator would charge for this type of thing, come up with a number, and do a Kickstarter. I was thinking about reworking my Patreon to be all Extraordinary Girl, but the difference between Patreon and Kickstarter is with Patreon, you have to give rewards for each goal that's made, basically monthly rewards, and I can't do that. Kickstarter is you start out with a number, a goal, and once you reach that goal, that money is yours, and that money goes to the thing you were trying to start. So basically, the number I would come up with to raise on my Kickstarter would include resources, material, and paying the illustrator. I do not have that number yet, but it's possible I could, it might be to $1,000 to $1,500. Some pros go up to like $3,000. It all depends on how much the illustrator is willing to work for. It's a decently simple drawing style, but again, I have very specific needs for this drawing style for it to work. Again, this is just an if thing, but I am really super, super excited about it. It's the first time I've actually had like a real dream that I'm really excited about. You know what I'm trying to say, I just can't put it into words. And I'm a very unlucky person when it comes to life. So I'm trying not to get my hopes too high, but the fact of the matter is that if YouTube cannot be my income and I cannot work because I'm disabled, this might be my go-to. Extraordinary Girl might end up being my thing. And since I have this all written down and stuff, no one can steal my idea and call it theirs, because that's not how copyright works. So that's why I'm sharing this and I'm excited about it. And there are other people on my DA who said that this could actually be a cool original thing, because think about it, it's really silly having a superhero with all these amazing powers that, if you think about it, if she could control them 100% of the time, nothing could hurt her. Being able to stop time, reverse it, go through objects, but the fact is that I made the most powerful powers work rarely, because it's like she's come to save the day. Probably, we don't exactly know how it's going to work because her powers don't work all the time. So, I don't know. I think it's a good idea. Michael thinks it's a good idea. I have other people who think it's a good idea. I already have people drawing, some fan art of Poppy, based on the vector that I made of her. And I really do want to see if I can do this. I'm 27 years old. I'm not getting any younger, and things just, when you're a child, they say you could do anything you set your mind to. Well, you know what? No, you can't. So again, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna put in the effort, but I don't want to get my hopes up too high, because failure is just the cruelest lesson that you can learn, and I've learned it so many times that there are many reasons why I am not more productive in the things that I do, is because I'm a giver-upper, and it's because life has dealt me nothing but shit. So, for those of you who have children, please stop telling your kids that they can grow up to be the president. No, scratch that. They can grow up to be president. Trump has proven that anybody can be president. Stop telling your kids that they can do anything. Support them in their skills. When you see that they have certain skills, be realistic, and also note that in this day and age, I don't know if things are going to change when your little kids grow up, but in this day and age, going to college does not help you get a job, unfortunately. And, it used to. But, you've got people who go to college for long periods of time and major in something useful and then end up working retail instead because there are no available jobs for what they majored in. So, it's just be realistic with your children. Otherwise, they're gonna grow up to be a lot more cynical and a lot more nihilistic, like me. And I don't want anybody to be like me, unless it's my morals, my straight edge, my no cheating, no lying, honesty, no stealing, staying clean, etc. Staying in school, working hard to try and stay in school, try to be better than your stupid abusive parents. Your kids will understand if you help them understand. It sucks. It sucks. It really does. And you guys know how much it sucks. Your kids need to kind of know how much it sucks. So, I'm not telling you to tell them to give up, because, for one, things may change when they get older, but I'm saying be realistic. Anyway, so if you like this idea, leave a like on this video if you've listened this long. If you enjoy my stuff, if you enjoy something of mine, anything of mine, that I do regularly, anything in my playlists, subscribe. Don't forget to click the little bell. Spread the word of awesome, become a Reitannite, and I shall see you later, alligators and crocodiles. Goodbye!